Hello, would you take 1 minute to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Adrienne Peña Garza, and I'm a candidate for vice chair for the Texas GOP.
We are going to start with some questions here, and Tracy and I will take turns asking you those questions. Question number 1, where can the job description of the RPT vice chair be found? And you have 30 seconds.
You can find it on the website for the Texas GOP.
Define the vice chair's role in relation to the chairman and the grassroots. And you have 1 minute.
Okay, I believe that the vice chair should complement the chair and the RPT platform. I believe it's also very important. It's an engagement role, community service role, outreach role, and really to help encourage and enthuse the grassroots on the ground.
Question 3. It's a 2-part question. I'm going to ask you the first part, and you have 2 minutes to answer that section, and then I'll give you the second part. So part 1 is name 2 specific projects that would, 1, expand the party with those who hold true Republican values as defined in our platform, and 2, that you would work for to achieve measurable results, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Life is the most important for me, and so Marches for Life, I think, can help recruit people that have our values, but maybe they're not engaged in the political process. I would also think that we should support our law enforcement. We have community outreach and engagement opportunities to honor them, to support them, and just show a servant's heart. I think that can also increase our numbers as far as Republican votes and touching hearts and minds in Texans.
Okay, part 2. Do you have any experience working for those 2 issues already? And if so, what has been the specific outcome thus far? And you have 1 minute.
Okay. Was just elected to my 3rd term for the Hidalgo County GOP as chairwoman. And we do have at least 12 different committees, and I think that's so very important because in the Republican Party, there's all different types of factions in the party. So we do have a libertarian that's in charge of vacancy. We have a traditional conservative that's in charge of candidate recruitment. We have a Leo committee chair, and that's the one that I wanted to talk about, law enforcement community appreciation. And we have about 60 people in that committee. We have community events every 3 months. And it's a beautiful way to show the heart of the party, to show that it's us that supports the law enforcement, to show that we have a servant's heart. And most people are non-political. They're not like you and I. And when they drive by and they see those flags, they see that we support them, they're going to want to pay more attention to our candidates.
Next question. In the preamble and principles of the RPT platform, it lists several principles that the RPT promotes. Could you please name as many as you can? And you have 2 minutes.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, we support life. We support liberty. We support the pursuit of happiness. We support traditional values, the Second Amendment, border security. We support, where am I? Lower taxes, less government. Maybe I misunderstood the question, but I could go on. We're also fiscal conservatives, and so we don't want to overspend. We're not socialist. So I think the gist of the party is everything that I stand up and represent for on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Think about the word unity in any controlling parameters that should define how this concept would most effectively apply to the mission of the Republican Party of Texas. How would you, as vice chair, promote unity among the different factions of the party? And you have 2 minutes.
Okay, so we have primaries, and we just had them. They can be very contested. We all have different opinions, but once the primary is over, we need to come together and support the nominee. And I think we can lead by example. Not all of us are going to be giving perfect speeches in front of the camera, but when you act and show that you want what's best for the party, which is growth, which is success, we want to have victories on the ground.
Okay. Mindful efficiency and purposeful effectiveness are vital ingredients to success in any endeavor. Please describe how you would apply these things to the working of the SREC.
Okay, one more time. Mindfulness and,
Mindful efficiency.
okay.
So efficiency and purposeful effectiveness. How would you apply these things in working with the SREC?
Okay. Well, I think every SRAC represents a different area. I'd like to get to know every single one of them and really not talk at them, but listen to them, hear what their needs are, understand, where maybe we're missing out, where we're not helping them. Bridging a divide between, county chairs and SRAC, Republican women's groups, teenage Republican groups, young Republican groups. I think if we can all start working together, we can be mindful and at the same time respect each other, and where we're all, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place on that one because I personally I've never been in SRAC. I've been to a few of their meetings and I know that they're all strong patriots like we are, but they all do come from different areas with different struggles, just like I do on the southern Texas border. But getting to know them and learning what their struggles are, learning where I can help complement the chair, I think will do a big service to the entire SRAC.
Thank you.
Define what you believe is the ultimate measure of the State Republican Executive Committee. So, in other words, if they had a report card, on what should they be graded? And you have 1 minute.
And we're all very unique. The different candidates are going to say different things, and I'm all about the grassroots. And I do believe that an SRAC needs to have a good relationship with the county chairs, and that your success should be judged on how many candidates you're recruiting, how many volunteers you're empowering, what your numbers are. Are they growing? Like for us in 2016, we had 20% for President Trump. In 2020, we had 43. So for me, that's us knowing that we worked on the ground. Having a strong relationship with the SRAC can even increase those numbers because they do have a level of influence that maybe county chairs don't have. And so I believe it's a package deal. We want to have success should be based on victories, not losing spots in your counties, winning elections.
Okay. This is a two-part question. First part, in June, the convention delegates will adopt 8 legislative priorities. The SREC Legislative Priorities Committee is charged with working to get these priorities passed. Please describe how you would support the accomplishment of the legislative priorities, and you have 2 minutes.
So again, I am really just here to compliment the chair, compliment the state party. I'm not here to destroy anything that's there. I think we need to support the platform. We need to support the party 100%. I don't think it needs any changes, and I trust that the SRAC and the committee will make the decisions, and I will stand with them.
Okay. Part 2. If the Republican governor, lieutenant governor, and House Speaker do not agree with the Republican Party of Texas legislative priorities, how will that impact your efforts? You have 1 minute.
I think we need to have conversations with our elected officials to explain to them how these priorities are affecting us in our areas with our elections. I'm going to go back to that all the time because to me, it's all about winning elections and then also holding elected officials accountable. That's key. So if the people that we are supporting and electing go against what we support, then that's whenever we come together and we look for different candidates to oppose them, unfortunately, because they're not listening to the needs of the grassroots.
Thank you.
Have you ever endorsed or helped a Democrat running for office? If so, who, when, and for what office? And you have 1 minute.
Okay, so full disclosure, I was a Democrat, very much like Ronald Reagan. My father was a Democrat. He was a state representative for 10 years, and he walked away from the Democratic Party and helped give the Republicans a supermajority in 2010. And so ever since I switched, I have voted straight Republican and will continue until the day I die.
Sadly, the ninth commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, from Exodus 20:16, is the first casualty of politics. It should not be so among our professed Christians. In your race for vice chair, have there been any misconceptions, rumors, or false witness tale-bearing spun to demean you that you wish to address right now? You have
No.
2 minutes.
No, for vice chair, no. I don't want to really go into my county chair race because I want to stay focused on this one, but I could write a book on the bullying that we've received, and I think it has a lot to do with, I come from an area that's been Democrat for 100 years, and we've been tirelessly fighting that for the past 10, and so I've had death threats. I've had coconuts crushed in front of my office 5 minutes before the deadline to file for office, but for vice chair, I respect the ladies running. I haven't heard anything negative, and I hope that we can run a clean race because it's all about the grassroots. We want to win elections, and we want to keep Texas red, and that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Recently, the Republican National Committee has attempted to establish a gay pride coalition with the Log Cabin Republicans. What are your thoughts about this? Would you support the Log Cabin Republicans having a booth at the Texas State Convention? Will you promote the Log Cabin Republicans in Texas politics? And you have 2 minutes.
Okay. I don't think I'll need 2 minutes, but first, I would say no, I don't support the booth, but I do also think that we should say as Christians that God has called us to love all people, and I don't think it's my position to judge them at all, but my role as vice chair is to support the platform of the Republican Party of Texas, and by no means, shape, or form am I going to go against that. So no, I do not support a booth at the convention.
Would you ever promote the Log Cabin Republicans in your role as vice chair?
It's, I support growth in the Republican Party. I've never been to a log cabin event. I was the vice chair for the Texas Young Republicans. I served 2 terms as a national committee woman for the Texas Young Republicans. I served on the national board as well, and I'm very kind to all people. But it is not something that I would be advocating for.
Thank you.
What is your stance on abortion? You have 30 seconds.
This one's easy for me because life is precious. And I think it's a duty for us as Republicans to support the unborn, to defend those that cannot speak for themselves. And so I support life at conception.
Thank you.
Give us your thoughts in 30 short seconds on closed primaries.
Can you give me the definition of that, please? Closed primary.
How would you support a closed primary?
Closed primary.
Okay.
I'm going to write that in my book. Closed primary.
From what sources will you look to increase donor dollars for the party? Are there any sources that are off limits? 1 minute.
Okay, so the first part of that, what I'm really proud of, and again, I come from a county of about 1 million people, completely blue, and when I first became chair, we had $5,000 in the bank, and we were going to have to shut down our headquarters, and we needed to do something new and exciting, so we continue to have Lincoln Reagan dinners where we have big speakers come down, you know, we had Will Witt. I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a young man that we're trying to engage the younger people to understand that it's cool to be Republican. It's cool to stand up for America. Oh, I have 30 seconds. The second part of that question, can you ask it again?
Would there be any that are off limits as far any sources of money that you would not want to work with?
Oh, Well, gosh, it's so hard to fundraise. I don't think I've ever had to deal with anything shady or I mean, we're always on the up and up. Integrity is everything about this party, and so we'll follow the rule, no matter what it is. We'll follow the rules on that.